Welcome to the future of print. We just had a great YouTube session, and now we're going back old school to the future of one of our classic forms of communication, print. And we've got a really great lineup here today. Kim Fuller from Jaunt Media Collective, Derek Franz from Alpinist Magazine, and Ryan Wichens from Trails Magazine. They're going to each speak for a little bit, and hopefully we'll have some time for Q&A afterwards. I will remind you that we're all here all day, so if you got a little taste of these folks and you want to interact with them later, follow them on the socials or just talk to them in real life, in real person while you're here. But I'll give you a little bit of a background of who you're going to hear from today. So Ryan, following almost a decade as a freelance journalist for publications like Backpacker, Outside, High Country News, Rock and Ice, some of my favorites. And Ryan launched Trails Magazine as a print-only, quality over quantity coffee table periodical for the bikepacking and hiking communities. He does most of his editing and a little bit of the freelance writing that's remaining from his home in the San Juan Mountains in Colorado. Beautiful place. You're also going to hear today from Derek, who climbing and storytelling are integrated as a way of life for him. He learned how to tie a figure eight knot when he was 11. He's a little older than 11 now. I was like reading his bio. I'm like, you don't look old enough to have this bio that you had. But he started really early. He was leading his dad up the diamond of Long's Peak by age 15 and continues to chase adventure in every discipline of climbing, in addition to whitewater kayaking, snowboarding, skiing. He's climbed El Cap in a day, Flash 513A. He is legit. Rope solo, Desert Towers, leads Water Ice 5. And became the editor-in-chief of the famous Alpinist magazine in August 2022 after serving as digital editor since 2016. Graduate of Colorado's School of Journalism. Wrote an award-winning column in the Post-Independent for 7 years while freelancing for Alpinist, Rock and Ice, and other media. So he's pretty busy when he's fitting in his climbing. And he also is really eager to see what the future holds for alpinism and especially outdoor journalism, which is why we're here today. And also we have Kim Fuller, who is the co-founder of Jaunt Media Collective, also based in Vail, Colorado. And the Jaunt family includes Yoga Plus Life, Spoke Plus Blossom, Covered Bridge. Kim started a career in media as a freelance journalist and has contributed to a number of national and regional magazines, some big ones, including Elevation Outdoors, 5280 Magazine, Denver Post, Outside Adventure, Gear Institute, Self Magazine, Wanderlust, The Infatuation, also a Colorado native who loves spending time out of office and getting fresh tracks or single track, teaches yoga, and you can follow her at Life in Full on Instagram or Jaunt Media Collective. So lots of really depth of experience in this room. In journalism, I love to see that journalism is not dead, and I'm really excited to hear what the future holds. So first up, we've got Derek, who is going to take it away.
Hello, it's an honor to be here. This is my first time at OMS. Usually when I'm speaking into a microphone these days, it's a podcast in the closet, and I just imagine ears out there, and now I get to see your faces. I'm here to talk to you today about the archival value of print. Why does print survive in the age of computers? I mean, I'm scratching my head about that plenty still, but I'm not dead yet. One story that ties it in for me, in 2011, my wife lost her older brother. He fell down the stairs in the middle of the night, blunt force trauma to the head, left behind a pregnant wife, a young son. He was just shy of his 33rd birthday. And, so she's devastated. She started collecting links to videos and songs that they had enjoyed. He was an entrepreneurial chef, so links to restaurants that he had started, or articles about restaurants that he had started. And nowadays, half those links no longer work. Some of those restaurants are no longer in business, so she lost connection to those memories. It was just on the internet and here today, gone tomorrow. Meanwhile, I still have the first copy of Climbing Magazine that was given to me as a Christmas present in 1994. So I can still hold it in my hands, and it's a very tangible connection to a pivotal moment in my life where I was introduced to my future right there, I guess you could say. So, print is something you can own, you can hold. Climbing Magazine, as I think everybody knows now, has gone out of print, unfortunately. Alpinist remains. So I'm just going to walk through some statistics of what has led us to where we are now. When we started in 2002, it was always geared heavily towards subscribers and readers. We had an ad saturation in a 98-page issue 1 of 8%, which is radically low. And then by issue 10, it was doubled to 16%, still radically low. And the magazine went bankrupt into 2007. Height of Land bought it early 2008. And my CEO told me that one of the first things they did was increase the ad saturation to 22%. And the magazine was immediately profitable. They also reduced payroll costs by 60% and brought the printing operation back from China to the US and saved about half what they were previously spending on there. So 20% is still like very low, still very reliant on readership. For comparison, typically like Outside Magazine, mainstream publication, you see ad saturations that are more around 30%. And like the second to last issue of Climbing, I was just counting offhand, it had a saturation of 26% for comparison. And we're increasingly reliant on subscribers. 38% of our circulation in 2013, 58% last year, and it continues to rise as the number of newsstands shrinks. Currently, we have a circulation of around 10,000 subscribers, 42 countries, 200 plus foreign newsstand copies, more like 450 in Canada. And we also have Alpinist Korea. So we're published, some of our stories are translated into Korean, and that's on issue 9. And we have a high archival rate. We've always had, this number seems to go up every time we have new survey results. It's been at 85% for the last couple of years. And why are we saving these issues? Well, for one, as I just laid out, we give priority to our readers more so than advertisers. We don't do sponsored content. We increasingly are pressured to take sponsored content. It's like this burgeoning wave, and we just keep having to say no to that money on the table because that's not what our readers are looking for. We don't do paid trips, where it's like a travel guide, kind of basically sponsored content as well. And with print, you can't undo mistakes. So there's really a lot of incentive to put the time into editing, fact checking, getting it right. Our CEO, Adam Howard, had this story on Alpinist 36, a keystroke mistake at the last minute on the cover changed the White Cliffs of Dover to the A Cliffs of Dover. And they ended up deciding to reprint those covers. It cost the company $4,000. And just to recoup some of that money, they took the bad covers and the staff autographed them and they sold them off for $20 a pop and got about $1,800 back. And then another story came out recently that at Backcountry, our sister magazine, they misspelled mountain. They just like flip-flopped some letters in the end. It's just like classic. And we all have those stories, right? If you're in print. So, you can't undo mistakes. We spend a lot of time just trying to get these stories so streamlined, make sure everything is as accurate as we can reasonably expect. It gets pretty difficult when you get into remote mountain ranges and there's literally like 2 or 3 people on like alive in the world who have firsthand knowledge or credible knowledge of some of these obscure spots. But we pride ourselves in that. We spend about $2,000 each issue hiring freelance help for that, because we comb through word by word, line by line. So it's accurate. And if you were in here for the previous presentation about YouTube and the value of the hook and attention span, it's even harder with print, because you have to seduce a person word by word to continue reading. And that's no small feat for a story that's 8,000 words long on average. Anyway, I can geek out on this. I'm getting off into some tangents. So, and photo quality. Oh, sorry, I'm getting a little lost. Another thing with magazine is, you're more likely to be exposed to some new ideas and perspectives. We try to pull together some topics that you might not be exposed to, whereas online with algorithms and everything, like the more you click on something, you're going to get into a digital silo, and you can get stuck in that bubble. So a magazine procured by editors, like, we're trying to expose our audience to new ideas as much as we can. And the fact checking informs that. Often we are surprised by what we find fact checking. It's usually what you think you know best, and then you're like, oh, it's actually wrong. So you can't assume anything. And also with print photo quality, it's easier to appreciate the artistic value of an image in print than on your phone screen. Like this photo from issue 83, like you can just see the textures. I feel like I'm right there on the face. I like that photo. Alpinist is also a time capsule. You have this archive going back to 2002 and really even older, because they pulled material together that, it dates way back. But you can flip through and see at a glance just how everything has changed or stayed the same. Like in 2002, issue 1, we have a cartoon of Tommy Caldwell. And in 2010, in this ad, it doesn't look like things have changed too much. And honestly, with Tommy, I think it's still kind of the same with his stature and ability. He has a few more gray hairs now, but it was an amusing one to me. This little tower in the Fishers, the Cobra fell down around 2015. It's a landform that doesn't exist anymore. So like in that time capsule, we have photos of this landform, and a lot of memories are connected to that for a lot of people. You can see how the demographics and the story, the culture, their values have evolved. These early issues, this fictional series, The Adventures of Hardy Grimper, it's the male voice is very dominant. It's like the demographic reading Alpinist was like really kind of narrow, and so Hardy is encountering, a woman. He's jilted by Sandrine, and he meets a biker chick named Kate. Here's a story about these two guys that stole Lynn Hill's panties and wore them out climbing on the supposition that it would increase their climbing prowess. And then, now we're seeing a better representation of this broadening demographic of people. It's not that they weren't there the whole time, but it's just all more inclusive and more welcoming, I like to think. As a person who was a young white male who fit into that demographic in the early years, and now, as I've been in this job and had my eyes open to everybody who's around, it's, just having an awareness of everybody who's around it's a good thing. And so having only 4 issues per year, it gives us more time to invest that quality and make something timeless and have it accurate. And also, fewer issues, it's easier to collect and store them. As I said, print, it hangs around as long as we hang on to it. And I was reminded of this as I was putting this together. This is one of my favorite photos of my wife and dog. And I had a little heart palpitation when I actually got this notice at first. So it's just a reminder that, yeah, okay, I should print that photo and frame it while I still can. So, if an archive connects us to history, what is the value of like maintaining this shared history? And it lends itself to community if we have history that we share. And with community, like, we're just going to be better connected to each other. This was in the recent issue. A reader wrote in to share his memories of Tom Hornbeam of Everest fame, Ed Webster, also of Everest fame and other fame. And he had a day out climbing with these legends. They both died in the last year and a half. But 3 generations of climbers there. And so he felt that connection to them through the articles and books they had written. And, he was compelled to share his memories with us. So we published that in the letters. So that's my presentation. Thanks.
Thanks, Derek. Alpinist Magazine. I'm really want to hold one in my hands right now. Okay, next up we've got Ryan Wichens from Trails Magazine, and here to enlighten us, please.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. I'm Ryan Wichens with Trails Magazine. Derek talked a little bit about this different business model in print, and I'm going to dive into that a little bit more and why the business model in print that we've seen so far is kind of creating that print is dead idea that is most definitely a myth. So a little bit of background on me. I was a freelance writer for a bunch of different publications, more than anybody else, Backpacker Magazine for 8 or 9 years. Last year, Backpacker printed its final print issue, and we started Trails in an effort to kind of fill the void for the backpacking community, but do it in a slightly different and more financially sustainable way. So why does a magazine like Backpacker fail and not print a magazine anymore? I talk about these as grocery store magazines, right? They're the, kind of cheap feeling, disposable monthly magazine that you can get on the grocery store shelves. First and foremost, they are cheap magazines, right? If you go to the grocery store, this is the oldest copy of Backpacker that I could find in my house, September 2015. $4.99 was the cover price. A subscription for a magazine like this, everybody gets those little postcards with some kind of deal, $5 to $12 a year, something kind of absurd like that. It costs a lot more money than that to print a magazine, even a magazine like that. Grocery store magazines like Backpacker, they don't make money off of their readers. They don't make money off of their subscribers. Their customer is the advertiser. That is the biggest difference here. You can see October 2022, Backpacker's 50th anniversary, and their last issue, the cover price was up to $7. But the biggest difference, September 2015, 38 pages of ads in a 106-page magazine, 26% of the magazine was advertising. By 2022, that was 17%. Interesting note, almost a third of the advertising in their last copy was for other outside properties, Gaia, Outside Plus, all that kind of stuff. That is where magazines like that make their money. I'm not sure if you can see it. It's a little bit small, but this is a rate card from Backpacker for, I believe this was 2022. Full page ad in the magazine is $25,000. So you can get a sense that is where the money comes from to print a magazine like this. And they are printing that magazine for their advertiser. The advertiser is the customer. Obviously, print advertising is not worth what it used to be anymore. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. With digital ads and all these other medium, print ads just aren't worth the same amount to a brand. And that forces a magazine, one of these grocery store magazines, they've got to make up that revenue somewhere else. So they include more advertisement, more pages of advertisements. They cut down on paper quality. They print fewer pages. They print less frequently. In the time that I was writing for them, I think Backpacker reduced its print frequency once or twice at least. Reduced quality of the paper and the printing. They cut back on staff. They pay their contributors less, all that kind of stuff. And unfortunately, that just leads to the quality of the end product as a whole decreases, right? As print ads get less valuable, there are fewer advertisers for publishers to make money off of, which means they need to reduce the cost of the magazine and decrease the quality of the magazine. Readers take notice of that and stop reading the magazine. The advertisements get even less valuable and less advertisers, and it just creates this vicious cycle. And eventually the result is the inevitable, quote, pivot to digital, or something weird like they start selling NFTs, or just shut down the print magazine entirely, all three of which happened at Backpacker. Print is dead is a common refrain because of this. We've all heard that. It's not true. The advertising-based model of print is not what it used to be. It's struggling. But it has nothing to do with the fact that the product, that the magazine, is a print magazine. So what do we do differently? Instead of focusing on the advertiser, we focus on our subscriber. And I'll preface by saying, you know, we are one of the newer publications to be following this model. We are by no means the first. Alpinist was one of the early ones to be doing this. And since we launched issue 1 about a year ago, there have been 2 or 3 other magazines coming out trying to do the exact same thing. So we're not exactly groundbreakers here. We don't make very much from advertising. We have a little bit of advertising in the magazine, but it's 10% or less of the page count of the magazine is advertising. On the other side of that, we do charge $70 a year for a subscription, and we print the magazine 4 times a year. Nice magazines, expensive magazines, kind of feel a little bit trendy, but it's not a trend. If you create a product, a magazine for the subscriber, for the reader, for that customer, they are willing to pay for it. And that is kind of the theme here, if there's any takeaway. How we do that. Readability and editorial quality, fewer ads. It's a nicer magazine to flip through, longer stories, bigger photography, just like Derek was saying. It's a more pleasurable experience to actually flip the pages and look at the magazine like that. Longevity, again, like Derek was saying, it's an archival quality product. We use thicker paper than the grocery store magazines, higher quality printing and materials. It's bigger. And aesthetic quality, we put a really big emphasis on the design of the magazine, making it look really good. It has to look good on somebody's coffee table and be something that they're willing to keep around there and not, throw out in the recycling when the next one arrives. Obviously, all that makes the magazine more expensive to print, more expensive to pay our contributors because we have more of them. The printing is more expensive, all of that. But our subscribers are willing to pay for that kind of product, and it's because we are forced to design it for them. I'll also note that scarcity increases demand a little bit, and the few advertisers that we do have in there are very passionate about the product. They like the magazine. They believe in what we're doing. They are willing to support it, and this isn't a slight on advertisers, on gear brands. It's just a kind of a retooling of where all this comes from. Really quickly, other things we do differently. We're a bigger quarterly, bigger magazine than you'll find at the grocery store, a little bit less infrequent, or a little bit more infrequent. There's also a lot of biannuals in the space that do really well. Minimal distribution. I've had people reach out and pitch me on getting trails into grocery stores. I didn't realize this beforehand, but it is the most inefficient, wasteful thing you could possibly imagine. It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand how magazines that solely, put themselves in retail survive. It doesn't make any sense at all. And low overhead. We're not getting into video. We're not getting into digital. We make a print magazine. We try and do it really, really well, and that's all we do. And we don't have to spend a lot of money on doing all this other stuff. So if you work in marketing and you're on the other end of things, you realize better than anybody that advertising is a moving target, very difficult to pin down and always changing. And if you're in our position, it doesn't make any sense to put all your eggs in one marketing basket, right? It doesn't make any sense to be completely reliant on print advertising, because that's going to change, and you're destined to fail if you go that route. If you make your readers, your customers, if you make a product for them, they will enjoy it enough to support it. They will pay for it. And as an editor, at the end of the day, you're going to be much happier with the product that you're creating, and much more proud of the magazine that you're putting out as well. So that is all I have to say. I have some magazines if anybody's interested, and then I have Pro Deal Card for subscriptions as well when we're done. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. I really appreciate that. Those insights. I love quality versus quantity, focusing on the subscriber, the customer. You and Derek have both focused on that. And now we have Kim Fuller, Jaunt Media Collective, who's going to share her insights. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here and your interest in the future of print. I'm super honored to be up here and share these ideas and also bring a little bit of a different perspective with Jaunt Media. So hopefully I know how to use this clicker. All right. So Jaunt Media Collective, we are based in Vail. You heard a little bit of my bio, but I have a strong background in freelance and went to school for journalism. My husband, who's in this room as well, our magazine Sherpa, a bunch of magazines in the corner. Definitely grab one or all three when you leave. So I have, that freelance background, and Bobby has a background in sales and marketing. So even before we were married or, really on this long life trajectory together, we decided we were going to go into business together, and so far it's working out. So our focus is print magazines and digital content. This is where I'm going to bring in a little bit of a different perspective on multimedia approach, also highly regional and our niche. So we also offer custom publishing services for people interested in having a magazine, whether that's promotional for them, hotels, resorts that want maybe just an annual publication. And we're also working with a nonprofit right now on a storytelling style magazine, because we know how to do it. We have the systems and we have all the connections in print, services in design, writing, and editing as well, hence the name Collective that we work with, lots of creatives. So our titles, Yoga and Life. So this was our first step into publishing. We took over what was a license to Colorado Yoga and Life in 2017, and we have since taken over the national brand. And we license to Minnesota currently, so we have a publisher up there. Okay, is that in the whole 15 minutes for the whole thing? Okay. So yeah, in Minnesota, Amy publishes and pays to license the trademarks, not a franchise model. We have the opportunity to grow that a little bit, but we're really just waiting for the right opportunities there. Well magazine is new, and it's under the Yoga and Life umbrella. It will be replacing Colorado Yoga and Life, so we'll still have regional up in Minnesota and Midwest. We have just found that we need to broaden our scope a little bit for our readers and for our partners, and make this more of a national title and all-encompassing of wellness, rooted in Colorado with a national reach. Spoken Blossom is out of Western Colorado, so our focus, what we cover is all Western Colorado, in addition to getaways that are of interest to those readers, and great gear and products. So print and digital as well. Covered Bridge is what we have launched most recently, although it's almost 3 years old now. So based in our hometown in the Vail Valley, semi-annual. This is really what we saw as a need to fill in our community. We saw how much people love Yoga in Life and Spoken Blossom, and we really felt we needed something like that in the Vail Valley. I wrote for all the magazines there and the Vail Daily. So did Derek at one time. And the magazines especially were geared for the tourists, and ours are for our community. But turns out that visitors to Vail want to be like the locals, so they love it too. Our print magazine calendar, so we print 8 magazines a year total between all the publications. Well, which, as I said, was Yoga in Life, Colorado Yoga in Life, which is our first issue will come out November 15th, so 15,000 per run, twice a year on that one. Summer and fall for the first, and then winter and spring. Spoken Blossom is quarterly, 15,000 again on that, and Covered Bridge, semi-annual, 20,000 per print cycle. So as I mentioned, our magazines are regional and or niche, and I say and or because, although rooted in Colorado and Yoga in Life, we have national presence online, and we have subscribers in 46 states and 5 countries with all these magazines. So advertising is our main source of revenue. Roughly 75% of our ad revenue is coming from our print ads, leaving about 25% coming from online ads and partnerships. That being said, we're still at about an 80% content, 20% advertising ratio. Online, we only have paywalls for full screen access to our issue magazine. So we put all of our magazines online, and just for the convenience of having a magazine delivered to your door or being able to flip through online, there is a charge associated. So, right around $20 to $30 a year, depending on the magazine, to get it delivered to your door, all the issues, and then between like $4 and $6 for that online high quality flip through. They're free. Other than that, print magazines are free over 500 locations and events throughout the state. So this gives a little bit of perspective. You can have a look outside of our Westvale office with Bobby standing with what was probably just a third of the pallets that came in that day of print magazines. And this is just a screenshot from Instagram. So we do have a great map that showcases all of our distribution locations throughout the state. So yeah, just touching a little bit, an example of how we would have advertisers work with us. Everything from a 2-page spread, premium space, to back cover, or all the way down to a 1/6 of a page. And really just wanting to offer, what it is that will help that small business. We end up working with a lot of small businesses, which has been such a joy because it's really, our 2 customers are our readers and our partners. And so working with local small businesses that, we can meet them where they're at, whether that's in print or package offerings with online. So pretty classic offerings here: newsletters, banner ads, and native articles, sponsored articles and social media shares, but really always focusing on storytelling first and foremost, high quality storytelling, and wanting to make sure that whether it is through advertising or through editorial, that we're informing and we're inspiring our readers. All right, so just an example of some of our email newsletter sponsorships options. Sponsored. This is such a great example of being able to work with a local nonprofit, Eagle River Water and Sanitation District, to tell their story about conserving water in our Vail Valley. Always having a disclosure there with sponsorship. Special sections, always fun to create. So this has been a really great example of how we pair print and digital and to serve our reader and to serve our partners. Coming out with a great, whether it's gatherings and getaways section for the summer edition of Spoken Blossom, for instance, it comes out in print, and then they also get a great newsletter blast with that, some social media, and just really having these options for our advertisers to really get their message out in an authentic way, however a reader is that day deciding to interact with the content. So there's a reason why print is still, I'm just going to read this through, is still an important component of advertising campaigns. Studies show that print ads convert more sales are more trustworthy, and are more memorable than digital ads. Plus, print ads are relatively affordable, fast, and easy to track. People love the feeling of print in their hands. We all know that. While screens have certainly become a staple in our lives, nothing quite compares to the tactile experience of a magazine, flyer, direct mail piece, or other print product. Small businesses especially have realized big successes with print campaigns. Restaurants often send out direct mail coupons to increase their traffic. Car dealerships bring people in for service specials and new cars with postcards. And health professionals send letters and direct mail with new customer calls to action. It's because they work. So really in our minds, and this is what I want to sit on this for a bit because I gave you the overview, but the future of print media for us and the way that I see it working for other markets, for other publishers, high quality. We've touched on this. Pick up our magazines on the way out and really feel the paper. Enjoy the cover. Enjoy what it does look like on your coffee table and wanting to keep multiple issues like an archive. And this is for smaller, viable audiences. I didn't make this term up. This is a Seth Godin term. If you know Seth, definitely follow him. We are focusing on those who are within a specific valley, all the way up to a specific corner of Colorado, or a niche market like yoga and wellness, where we're not trying to reach everyone. We're not trying to be in the newsstands and have low quality or be in the back of a airline chair, right? Where you do get a lot of eyes, but is there that connection to what is being created into that storytelling? And we really value quality. And we create offerings for mindful and discerning readers. So like I just said, people who honor what we do and really respect it and want to read what's in those pages. And print and digital marketing opportunities for small and independent businesses. Such a wonderful thing to be able to work within a budget and say, yes, we can get you in our next print magazine that's going to get in more than 20,000 hands in this winter season in Vail Village. But we can also get you some email newsletters, and you can reach people who are hardworking and they haven't been able to step in the village this season. And yeah, so small and independent businesses. We do work with some larger organizations, but we get to work with businesses that are our size. Printing and shipping, that's probably our biggest overhead. So, how we do what we do is we work with a vast network of talented and remote creatives, so freelancers. Thank you. I've been there, and it's a wonderful career path, and we love working with writers and designers and all those who make our wheels turn. We have a small but growing team, and they're all remote, although they're making their way closer and closer to the Jaunt headquarters somehow, which is great. If they're able to make it work in Vail, we love that. Diversifying our revenue streams, this is huge for us. So just being able to make sure that, and we've seen this with the 3 magazines, if one is struggling a little bit, which we saw during COVID, the other 2 can boost it back up. And being able to know that we're bringing it in from different angles, which is really helpful. And staying connected to our communities. Obviously, these are a different model. We have more. We love outdoors. Our communities are based in outdoors. And we have a lot of coverage of outdoors in all of our magazines. We also have a lot of lifestyle and a lot of, very hyper locally focused coverage. And in that way, we can stay connected to our communities, and our communities value what we're offering them, and we support each other in that. So yeah, follow us. You can't quite see the bottom of my slide, but yeah, Life in Full, Kim Fuller Inc., and definitely email me, reach out, come along with us for this journey. Yes, these are Colorado magazines, but like I said, we're all over this country with people who have interest in stories about our region and also activities and gear and hobbies that can resonate with anyone around the world, really, that are interested in them. All right. Thank you so much.
All right, I'm gonna have our speakers stay up here for a second. You're actually, way to go, staying on time. And we've got about 5 minutes remaining. So I would love to open up the floor for Kim, Derek, or Ryan, if you all have any specific questions and want to dive a little deeper. So any questions? Anyone want? Yeah.
How did you pick .net for Trails Mag
All right, we'll pass it to Ryan. How'd you pick your URL?
Yeah, this is an easy answer. Somebody out of Portugal owns trailsmag.com and hasn't done anything with it. We've been very, very trying hard to get in touch with them.
Just on that note, foreign agents holding URLs for ransom is not. When the newspaper I worked for many years ago, early 2000s, I don't know what country it was, but it was a porn site, like GlenwoodSprings.com was like a porn site, and they had to pay a ransom to get that.
Wow, it happens, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So if you know anyone in Portugal who can release that URL, that's a really good question. Any other specific questions you want to ask the team up here? Yeah.
Ryan had mentioned that getting your magazine in a grocery store doesn't make any sense, and I was wondering if you could elaborate on that because it sounded very fun.
Yeah, the grocery store. Elaborate on the grocery store magazine story.
Yeah, this was just kind of one person who reached out to me offering to be sort of a broker in that situation. But really briefly, the way it works is, the publisher has to sell the magazines to the broker/grocery store for a crazy discount. And then the grocery store considers it a good day if they are able to move something like 40% of the magazines that they've purchased before the next one comes in, and then the rest just get chucked. So obviously we're a different model, different kind of magazine. We don't have really a more premium magazine. It's harder for us to have the margin to do that, but it's also super wasteful and kind of dumb.
That's a good point. Thanks. All right here.
What markets are biggest for you, and are urban environments for these really high intensity outdoor mags? Are people showing up from cities to buy your mags?
Do you want to? Who do you want to direct your question to? And maybe we'll give that to you. Yeah.
About 20% of our audience identify as armchair mountaineers. We have that literary storytelling element. And so I always joke in my position, I have more climbing experience than a lot of the riders, and I have a lot more riding experience than a lot of the climbers. So I'm at this nexus. And that's a pretty cool place to be, the variety of pitches and views we get from people who are in the cities and have this more distant interest. And so anyway, about 20% armchair mountaineers.
I don't have a number, but we definitely sell a lot of magazines. A lot of our subscribers are people in cities across the country. We try hard to have reasonably diverse content. And as much as I think we all enjoy those hardcore stories of people really getting after it, we've featured a lot of stories that are relatable to people and something that people can see themselves into. So.
I'll just quickly. Yeah, I just with our regional model, I would definitely look very closely at a market before moving into it with trying to start a print magazine, right? So what we're doing works partly because of where we are in Colorado.
Awesome. Yep, in the middle there.
Was there, this is directed to any of them, were there any magazines or publications that you were surprised sort of folded up shop, like National Geographic and these ones most recently, that you thought were doing really well?
Yeah, who do you think was going to survive, and you were surprised that they didn't?
Well, something that none of us have mentioned is in the last 3 years, print costs have gone up 70%. So it's not surprising because I understand what the margins look like. It is disappointing.
Yeah, like Kim touched on earlier about having multiple titles. So when one is faltering, the others can lift it up. And Height of Land, which owns Alpinist, and Backcountry, Mountain Flyer, Cross Country Skier, same situation. Right now, the mountain bike industry is just hurting so hard. Our CEO is saying, he's like, oh, it's a rough ride right now. I'm like, well, that's what mountain bikes are for. But COVID was really interesting. It hit the supply chains. The trickle down was so real, from manufacturers, who can't supply the material goods, and then companies can't make their products. And, and now we're seeing a glut. So there was a dearth of product, and it just hit everyone's budget, and it trickles down to the ad money for the magazines.
And really, really quickly, I'll also say there's a big problem in the space right now with, big media conglomerates kind of buying a lot of these publications and merging them together and dissolving other ones and that kind of thing. And that is certainly a part of the problem. That has also created the space for magazines like Trails, Summit Journal is new, Ori Magazine, Escape Collective, all these other publications doing independent things, kind of flushing back into that space as, these bigger companies destroy what's in there.
Those are really good insights. We are at time now, so I want to thank our speakers, Ryan, Derek, and Kim. Really good insights, and encourage you all to give them a follow, grab them in the hallway, and I think now we break for lunch. So thank you, speakers.